All right, this is the demonstration of Simmons SDX number 165. I've had this system for a number of years now. It's just been a lot of fun. Got it from England, shipped to me, and they made a special case just to get it in my hands. And I married it with this Roland stand, which I thought was quite good. Now with this Roland stand, I was able to make the hexagonal shape of the pads work really well. You kind of got a nice surrounding feeling here. Have the Simmons cymbal pads. It just worked out really well with the stand. And I'll show you, it's amazing. There were fewer than 200 of these things made. This was released in 1987, so just a few years after the Macintosh computer, and yet it has a built-in graphical user interface, and it's all works with this trackball here and a couple of buttons that work along with this. I'll demonstrate a couple of things to it. Has this control panel here where you can automatically generate automatically trigger the different things in the memory, and in the control panel section you can also adjust the pad sensitivity. So each one of the pads can have its own sensitivity. And this is pretty important actually, because each one of these pads, when these things were invented, the biggest authority on this, Bruce Mason, told me that each one of these pads is kind of unique. And so each pad really requires its own special sensitivity setting. You can get a close-up here of how I've set the sensitivity, because for this kit, this particular setting works out really well. And we can go over here into the monitor here, and when you click monitor, it comes all these things that you can see there. All right, it also has a built-in disk operating system here. So like if I click and hold disk and take a look at what we have here in what they call patches. So the SCSI here is the particular disk drive and disk drive volume. And the way I've made these external drives, I've segmented this into SCSI 0, which holds the operating system, and SCSI 4, 5, and 6 are up here, and SCSI 1, 2, and 3 are a substitute for the hard drive down here in the bottom. And so just to demonstrate here, I'll go to SCSI 4, you say accept, and this is what's called the disk. Within each one of these SCSI drives, there could be disks. It's sort of like partitions or volumes. So I'm just going to click on this, and you can see all of the different types of drum, what we call patches here. And these are really just folders. Like for example, in the Bruford folder, you can see that there are many different kits that are in here. Just to show you how quickly one of them loads up, I'll just click here, accept. And in a second, I'll load another one and show you how quickly you can switch between them, it's pretty remarkable how quickly you can switch between the kits. So we'll load another one here, like this Broad Kit 1A. So it's ready to go now. And then as soon as I select this, the mouse pointer will go away for just a second and then come back. Like that. So it took just that quickly to change kits. So there's many other things that you could do with this thing. Let's see here. Can configure how the voices are triggered, how the voices are shared between the different pads. It's 100% configurable. You could see the instruments. You can edit how this works and how hard you can hit this, and the pitch and the level and just all the different things. And all this is a graphical user interface. It's 100% adjustable of how you can create these envelopes. And so it's just really amazing that they were able to create all of this back in 1987. All right, I'd like to demonstrate a couple of my favorite kits on here. There's so many sounds that this thing can make and so many kits that are built into it, but I figured just kind of to give a broad overview, I'll start with this Bruford kit. This is what, in the Bruford folder, it's called Broad Kit 1. We got a decent hi-hat here, and it works both open and closed. And you can see that as we change our position on the pad, the sound changes because it's a position sensitive type thing. And we got some, this is kind of a generic kit sound. So let's see. Now, one neat thing about the Simmons SDX is that these Simmons cymbals, you know, they come out with this swivel, and you could disable the swivel if you want, but I like the swiveling action, kind of gives it a real cymbal feel. And like real cymbals, you can choke them. So for example, I can hit this. So it's a really neat thing that they just kind of thought of everything. It's amazing that they have been able to develop this technology in 1987. So that's Bruford, what's called Broad Kit 1A. Here's another kit in the Bruford folder called Bruford 26th of October 1989. And so this kit has Bruford rotos. So I'll also demonstrate, you know, the SDX, in addition to being able to make drum sounds, authentic drum sounds from samples, it also has a built-in synthesizer, noise sources and stuff like that, so it could generate the classic Simmons sounds that Simmons was known for back in the 80s. Here's a sonar drum set that has a built-in phasing action to it as well. Almost like a Miami Vice feel. So here is a gated ambient kit like what Phil Collins used to use quite a bit. And the position sensitivity works on these as well, and the snare drum also has a rim sensor, so you can get it's a completely different sound off the rim. All right, one of the things I'd like to demonstrate is the SDX's ability to work with the keyboard. You know, the SDX came out really just when MIDI was being formed, and so Simmons had to figure out MIDI input and output, and they did just an amazing job at this. You know, it works not only with the drums, but also with the keyboard input. So this is a MIDI controller, and I'd like to demonstrate some of the keyboards. You know, one of the things is when the Simmons SDX came out, it actually also came with a bunch of keyboard samples and that sort of thing. So I'll demonstrate a couple of them for you right now. So in my system, I have this on SCSI 6. So I have SCSI 6 selected here. And then this tells me that this is the keyboard samples. And you can take a look at how many samples that we have here. Really quite a bit. Guitars, brass, strings, that sort of thing, saxophone. But I'm going to demonstrate first this grand piano. And there are several grand pianos here, but I'm just going to choose the first one, grand. Now, one thing about this, you'll see how long this takes to load. And the reason is because these keyboards, unlike a drum where you have probably one or a few samples on a drum, maybe one associated with the center and one with the outside and that sort of thing. The way they make the keyboard samples is each octave or even each sub-octave has a sample associated just with that, just with these few keys and that sort of thing. So it just makes it where it takes a lot of memory to have one of these keyboard samples. Unlike the drum samples and the drum, what they call patches, where I can have many different drum sets loaded into memory at the same time, I can only have a few keyboard samples loaded. So the grand piano is loaded up, and I'll demonstrate that for you right now. So we'll try some velocity. So that's grand piano. I'll load a couple of other keyboard samples just so you can get a feel for what was included. They chose some very funny names for this, like this top one, Big Bugger. Let's load up the Big Bugger and see what it sounds like. All right, there, the Big Bugger's loaded. Let's give it a try. So this is just a single key I'm holding. That is a Big Bugger indeed. Let's see what other kind of organs we have. We'll try this choir. This is kind of interesting. And this is a lot of what was going on back in the 80s. These kind of sounds, people were really experimenting around with this kind of synthesized sound. This is actually a choir that was recorded, but then when you use it on a keyboard, it sounds kind of funny. It sounded interesting how they were using this in the 80s. Let's see. There's also another one here, slide organ. It's kind of interesting. So almost sounds like that THX, the start of the movies. You know, it could be something like that. So let's see what else we got here. Strings. Once again, just so I don't run into trouble here, I'll clear out the memory before loading some more samples. And we're ready to go. So once again, instead of having just a simple sound, just by holding down a single key, there are many tones all kind of put in parallel in this particular patch. So that's huge string. We'll load up another one here called phasing strings. So it's neat to get the phaser, kind of this phasing sound, along with the samples. So this is more of a kind of a typical synthesized sound with a chorus built on top of it. So amazing that you could use both keyboard and drums, and actually the neat thing about it is that you could see the little icons, with the ones where they are made for a keyboard player and keyboard. You can show a picture of a keyboard, and some of these can be used with both keyboard and drum at the same time. So they show you an icon of a keyboard and a drum at the same time. And the neat thing is that when you select the thing, the little keyboard player sits at the new location. And you have both a keyboard player and a drum player. So when you load in these samples, it always arranges them in alphabetical order too. So anyway, it's just a great piece of electronic drum and synthesizer history. It's been amazing to be a part of this. I've been wanting when I saw this in the advertisements when I was in my early college days, the advertisements made it look just so amazing, and I've been wanting one ever since. And finally, many years later, got to the point where I can acquire one, and this has been with me for a number of years now. It's been great fun to play with, and like I say, it is just an amazing piece of electronic drum and synthesizer history. Thanks for watching.